Hello again. Welcome to South Olympic Branch Update number 16. Made a bit of a mess here. I'm going to take out the two signals that are there and I'm going to replace them with this beast. Now, one of the things I bought this off eBay, and in the pictures it looked pretty good. And honestly, for about $28, it's not bad specifically, but I'm not super impressed with it. It'll just suit the terms or suit the situation until I find something better. And I'll probably dull coat it, which will help. I've been waffling a bit about what industries to put along the main line over here because I wanted to leave enough room for the actual intermodal facility. And I think what I'm going to do is just have a simplified lumber business here. And that's what those two sheds right there are. I might replace those sheds. Those are a Walthers kit. I might replace those with something else at some point. But for now, that'll be a good stand-in. And I was going to put 2 tracks in there for the lumber unload. But I'm going to be using center beams, and those need to be unloaded on both sides. I'd like to have it somewhat realistic there. So I've decided I'm going to go with 1 track in that facility. And we'll see how it fits if I can make the rest of the stuff behind it and in front of the divider work the way I want to. I also painted some of the plywood that I'm going to use for decking. And no, the brown doesn't match the other brown, but it's probably not really going to matter in the long run. Took some cardboard I had left laying around and attached it to the bottom of the girders here with some push pins, and I'm going to use it for a template, I hope, to cut out the bottom for the river valley here. Not super duper, but the template does seem to fit pretty well. I just got it taped in place right now, so it's just going to hang in there kind of loose. But we'll see how it looks when I actually get to cut a piece of plywood for this. Okay, I've added a couple of cleats to the bottom of the surrounding braces or girders, whatever you want to call them. And I'll be putting the plywood on top of that for the base of the river. And there's the template basically in place on top of the cleats. Now the river valley base is set in place on the cleats. My next job is to mark and notch the fascia bracing board so that I can have it go around that. I completed notching out the fascia bracing board with my skill saw. Things aren't quite perfect, but that's okay because there'll be a board that covers that. That will be the trim that everybody sees eventually. Getting ready to lay some track on this curve here. Put down the Aleene's tacky glue, and I'll tack this into, or pin it into place with the push pins until it dries. I've already got holes drilled for feeders that are attached to some rail joiners there. And so we should be good to go. Tracked down and kind of massaged into place. Something I'll keep an eye on is exactly the angle that this piece comes at when it hits the end of that rail, so I can make sure that when I try to feed into the next piece, it's going to be as smooth as possible. And that's kind of what I did over here too. It's one of those things where I think the end of the track ended up a little farther out than I liked it, but I'm going to come along with some scenery and stuff, put a little bit more out here. So, and then if necessary, I'm going to come back with some plexiglass, and I'll put that on the outside to protect things from falling off onto the floor. It's about a 4.5-foot drop, and that would be no fun for the stuff or me. I've started assembling this double-track railroad arched Pratt Truss bridge. You can see a couple of the pieces over there. And I'm nipping off the sprues with the sprue cutters and using a fingernail file to clean those up. Using these little tiny clamps that came from Harbor Freight, I'm putting the pieces of this together and letting it set up. Using the plastic weld glue, this actually doesn't take very long per joint, but there's a lot of joints that need gluing. Okay, I think I'm through gluing the sides together, and then I put the caps on the top, figuring out kind of by the drawing that the tabs should face the inside, which makes sense. And then there's 8 and 9 that I need to put on there next. I found those on this sprue right here, and that will probably be the last thing I get done tonight. I've got the clamp in the picture set up there, and it's actually holding what is already glued, and that would allow me to lift up the remainder of this and get some glue inside there, and then drop it down and let it set without peeling back the glue I've already done. And then I'll come back and glue more along some of the edges on this. My experience with one of these similar Walthers bridge was that you have to try to get as glue in as many seams as you can without like leaving big globs of glue on there to help the bridge be nice and strong when it goes on the layout. Now the bottom lacing is in place, and the instructions tell me that we've got more lacings to go, a lot more. So all of those numbers indicate additional lacing pieces to go on the bridge. So those 2 sprues have just some of them. So I've got all 7 pieces of the lacing glued along the bottom of the girder there. Well, top of the bottom girder. Yeah, I could have this set up so that you guys could watch me glue these things together, but there tends to be a bit of swearing that goes with that. Seems like no matter how hard I try, I always end up with glue on my fingers, period. And that reminds me, if any of you guys have some tips out there on gluing or things you might think of that are helpful, put them in the comments. Let's all hear about it. Let's see if people can see what I'm about to do here. So what I've been doing previously is laying it over and letting the glue flow with gravity. But what I'm finding is that I get too much glue on there. And it just occurred to me that if I use the bottle and squeeze it, and I'm in an awkward position here because I'm trying to get this on video, with it slightly up, with the piece up, I might actually be able to do that without getting too much glue on there. So I'll have to take a look at this video real quick. And there, of course, goes the cap because, you know, it has to do that. All right, there's one piece in place. Let's see if I can get the other piece in place here. Pieces 14 and 15 on the end there installed. And then the 19 number, which is the ones on both sides of these, have been installed as well. It's no wonder it's taken me a long time to do this. There's a lot of lacing in this thing, but it makes for a neat looking bridge. One side done. All the lacing and everything, finally. Once the left and right trusses are assembled, the instructions say to support them so that they're straight up and level. I've got a couple of machinist blocks in there to do that. And then it says to install the end beams in there. So that's done. I've got to start working on the rest of the beams for the bottom of it. That'll be my next step, and it'll be in the next video. Until then, I hope you guys are having fun with your trains out there. Be safe.